Hello, I am Julie Ratner. I am the host of Breast Friends, and I'm also the co-chair and founder of the Ellen Hermanson Foundation. As you can tell by the title of this program, it's all about breasts, but specifically, it's about breast health care and how it is shared in our community so that all women have access to breast health care. And also, we'll talk about other types of health care and issues that affect the health of our community in other shows. Today, however, my guest is Laura Borghardt, and I'm thrilled to introduce her to you. Laura is the
Director of Cancer Services.
Director of Cancer Services. I did know that. I forgot it for a moment, everyone. She's the Director of Cancer Services at the Phillips Family Cancer Center and the Ellen Hermanson Breast Center. Laura, welcome.
Thank you so much.
I'm delighted to have you on our show. I've been thinking about this a long time.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
And I've been thinking about this because I think not enough people know about the Phillips Family Cancer Center. This is an extraordinary resource in our community. It's been open for 5 years. It is state-of-the-art, full service, and after today's program, I hope everyone in our community, certainly everyone who watches this program, will know all about it.
Thank you.
And so I'm not going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
And or maybe I will put you on the spot. But before I put you on the spot, why don't we show a little video of the Phillips Family Cancer Center, this beautiful state-of-the-art facility whose architecture actually is made to mimic the old potato barns of the Hamptons. So if we can roll that, that would be great, please.
Great.
It's impressive.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we opened our doors back in May of 2019. As you know, we have radiation oncology and medical oncology in that building. It was funny, you mentioned the potato barn. So when we first had this idea back in 2014, we were told by the town that they wanted us to make sure that it fit, culturally within the community, so that it didn't look like this, massive building. And so there used to be a potato barn that sat on that site where we are currently located, right there at the corner of 39A in Montauk.
I don't remember
seeing it. It had to be years ago.
Okay.
It had to be years ago, yeah.
Good.
So, I think it was actually knocked down, and so it was just this big, vast piece of property at that point.
I remember that.
And so we were like, a potato barn, but then the more we thought about it, the more we thought the brilliance of it, right? So we have radiation oncology on the first floor, and in radiation oncology, you always have that big linear accelerator. So that's like right in the actual property, so it's in that hill part, and regardless of where you park, whether it's in the front or in the back, you all come in on a main floor.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
I want for our listeners and viewers, let's tell them about this linear accelerator because it is an extraordinary piece of equipment. Yes. And I just want to interject that for someone going through radiation oncology, it is often 5 days a week for 5, 6, 7 weeks. And if I'm correct about that.
It can be, yeah.
And for someone, for example, living in Montauk, who prior to our Phillips Family Cancer Center had to go to Riverhead. Think about traveling in the summer.
can't.
That is a nightmare. It is an ordeal. We have this extraordinary machine. Let's describe it to people. Even from the cost, the weight, the doors are 20.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if you'll believe this. The doors are 22,000 pounds.
Yes.
Can you get your arm around that? 22,000 pounds for a door. They are this thick,
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah, it is.
Tell us about this machine.
So I come from a world of radiation oncology. I started back in Stony Brook Medicine, and so we realized, like as you said, that there was just this huge need for radiation oncology in addition to medical oncology out here on the East End. So the linear accelerator that we have is the latest and greatest in technology. We can do your typical standard radiation treatments, which, like you said, are 5 days a week. Can be upwards of like 5, 6 or more plus weeks in a row. But it also has the capability of doing more complex and intricate types of treatments, which we call stereotactic treatments.
Explain, please.
So stereotactic is a little bit more pinpoint precision of treating the actual cancer. So we can't use it for all cancers, but we can use it for some very, very specific cancers. And stereotactic allows us to be able to increase the dose of what we're treating for the patient while minimizing the amount of times that they have to come in. What they call the biological effect is exactly the same. So you have to be very, very precise with it because you're increasing the dose to the patient on a daily basis. But it allows us to pull back on the amount of times that a patient has to come in.
How do you get that precision spot? So because your patient comes in every day, which I assume means you have to hit the same spot.
Yep.
Every day.
Every day.
So how do you do that you are that accurate every day for I don't know how many days in a row?
I hate to say it this way, but the simplicity is almost sophisticated with the way that we do it. So when a patient comes in and they are told that they need to have radiation and they've made that decision that they're going to do that, they will come in and we will have them do a CAT scan. It's called the therapeutic CAT scan. So it looks just like as if, your typical CAT scan, if anyone's ever gone in and needed to get something diagnosed and they were put on a CAT scan. But we don't actually use it diagnostically. We use it so that we can take those images, which are 3-dimensional images, and we can look at this particular viewpoint of the patient. The doctor can clearly define the tumor volume that we want to treat and works with a medical dosimetrist to define all of the other areas in the body. So we call them organs at risk, so any normal tissue. So in this particular case, if we had a patient that had breast cancer and we were treating, say, the left breast, what else is in that area we want to make sure that we protect, right? So the lungs, the heart, the esophagus, depending on the spine, depending on where the cancer is. So the doctor will actually define with those 3-dimensional images exactly where he wants to treat. And then using those 3D images, the medical dosimetrist will design the plan to maximize the dose to just that area while minimizing the dose to everywhere else. So based on how the patient is set up, and the radiation therapists are so skilled, they really try to make sure that how they get that patient set up on that first day of the CAT scan, that's how they are set up every single day afterwards. So they really want to make sure that the patient is very comfortable and can hold that position. Because if the patient can't hold the position, then the patient's going to move. We're no longer treating where we need to treat. So they use immobilization devices. They try to look at the patient's comfort level. Can they raise their hands? Are their hands going to be at the side? And then working with the medical dosimetrist and the physician, they design the medical dosimetrist designs the plan, and then the radiation therapist treats it.
That's so interesting. When my sister had radiation, she had a tattoo.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore. They still tattoo.
They still tattoo. They don't need to as often in some cases, but yes, they still tattoo because on the actual linear accelerator, they use lasers to line up those tattoos to aid in making sure the patient is set up.
Okay.
But the technology has advanced that they can actually utilize certain technologies so that they can actually see when the patient's on the table. The therapist can see to make sure, even internally, that the patient is set up the right way. Yeah.
So you said the patient has to stay still.
Yeah.
How long does on average, and I know this is probably, radiation session last?
The actual treatment time is really not long. Sometimes the patients will come in and they'll get some imaging done so that we can compare images and make sure that they're lined up perfectly. The actual treatment time is probably only about 10 minutes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So for the patient who has to move around, you only have to stay still then
Yeah.
for 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
And the therapist will work with the patient. They try to provide a very calming environment for them. We play music for them, something that they want to hear that's going to relax them or calm them. They're always constantly talking to the patient through the console. They can see them, so they can always make sure that the patient's not in distress. And so they not only are able to see them visually, but then they're also able to see them on the monitors internally to make sure that there's little to no movement and that they're staying in the same spot.
We have a great, this is an amazing resource. I was thrilled when I was at the groundbreaking, and then I was at the ribbon cutting.
Yes.
And I was so thrilled that we have this resource in the community. I want to ask you about medical oncology, because that is different. I don't, I assume that means all the varieties of chemotherapy and
we do transfusions,
targeted therapy,
Yeah.
and what's involved there. And something that wasn't on the video that I think is important, the Phillips Family Cancer Center has its own, it's not a dispensary, but its own
Pharmacy.
little pharmacy. I was going to call it like its own little chem lab. It's like where they can make these extraordinary concoctions, which also makes it possible for someone who's, say, visiting for the summer from
100%.
somewhere else and needs to have his or her treatment, but doesn't want to go back to California or Chicago or Boston or even New York City.
Yep.
And because it's like a chemical formula, you can get it anywhere.
Yep.
And we have the ability at our cancer center to create these magical potions that save lives.
Yeah. So you're at 100%, you were spot on. We have medical oncology on the second floor. We are able to do infusions, injections, transfusions. So people who need to have blood transfusions, we're able to do that there as well. We have 10 private bays and we have 4 community bays. I always tell the story about how my mother-in-law, when she went in for her own chemotherapy, she loved to talk to the nurses. She loved to talk to the other people that were there, and she was just always socializing.
Social butterfly.
I know, and she just loved it. And so when I would go and go to see her to make sure that she was okay, out of professional courtesy, the nurses would always put her in a private room. And after a couple of times of doing this, she came to me and she said, "Laura, I love you so much, but you got to stop coming to visit me. I miss my friends. I miss being there. I miss seeing everybody."
That's lovely.
And I would tell them, please don't put her in a private room like they're, no, it's okay, we'll do this for you. But everyone has their own preference and their own style for treatment. And so some people want to be just kind of left alone. We designed the rooms, as you've probably seen, we designed the room to kind of look almost like a family room. Right, so we try to take the clinical aspects out of those infusion bays. So we've put in sofas for the family members because the patients can be there sometimes several hours at a time getting the infusions or the transfusion. So we try to make it be very comfortable. They all have their own television set that they can look at. Every bay has a skylight that they have control over how much sun they come in because there's shading there.
I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yeah. The seats actually which were donated by the Ellen Hermanson Foundation.
I know. Thank you for saying that. We were so proud to do that. When we found out about the chemo chairs, we said, we'll do 10.
They are the Rolls Royce of chemo chairs because they not only go back, they're heated. They have little area for people to do their charging station for their electronic devices. It is, just top notch, and the patients are very, very comfortable there. So it was a godsend. So it was very much appreciated. But one of the other things that you mentioned that we do have is we have an on-site pharmacy. So, which is huge. So we don't have to transport the drugs back and forth between the hospital, which is only about a mile away from us. But we don't have to transport the drugs back and forth. Everything is done on site, which gets the patients what they need sooner, faster, and it's safer. It's a safer environment.
Here's maybe a silly question. Do you need to mix the chemicals or mix the drugs specifically for patients, so that if you know, for example, that Julie Ratner is coming on Tuesday and she has her drugs, they are prepared specifically for her.
Yep. It's not done ahead of time. So it's done actually on site live. So when you would come in, if you had a specific regimen, then the pharmacist would have that order and they would prepare it, they would mix it, and then they do a double check with the nurse to make sure that they sign off on it before anything is given. But you mentioned something before, which actually I thought was really great to touch on, is that one of the things that we realized when we first built this program, I don't even want to say building, but it was really building the program, was that we had a lot of people who were out here that didn't always reside here year round. And so for the people who were actually coming in from, say, the city, or like you said, from some other place where they really resided most of the year, and the Hamptons was their summer home, we have an amazing physician, Dr. Yerevikova,
Right.
who actually will work side by side with those referring physicians so that the patients can still resume their regimen. Unlike radiation oncology, chemo sometimes can just continue onwards for months and potentially even years, depending on what the diagnosis is. So rather than keeping patients kind of ball and chain to where they live and not being able to go anywhere, Dr. Yerevikova is absolutely amazing and our NPs working with these outside physicians, talking to them, talking to their practice, meeting with the patient, making sure that we maintain that regimen. So for the time that they're here and in our area and in our community, that we're able to provide them the same type of service so that they're able to continue and have a higher quality of life.
I think it's extraordinary what the Phillips Family Cancer Center does. And also, I think we need to talk about the psychosocial support and the social workers, because cancer is not just a physical disease. It's about the heart, the soul, the mind. Everything is inextricably linked. And what happens here affects our bodies and vice versa.
100%.
And the anxiety, and for some people, the terror of having a life-threatening disease can be overwhelming.
And not just for the patient.
Family too.
Right? For the family. It's overwhelming. People always forget, because you're so focused on the patient, what the family's going through.
Called caregiving.
And that trauma, right, that they're going through to try to be that strength and that pillar for the person, and to make sure that we address that as well. But yeah, it was really important to me that we built this program, this cancer service program, that it wasn't just an assembly line. It wasn't just about bringing the patients in and, okay, you're done and go home. It really was about treating the patient in totality. And that patient, their support system is part of that patient. Right.
So are there programs for family there?
Absolutely, 100%. We do have a social worker on site all the time for our patients, and it's no cost. So it doesn't matter what the insurance is. We're not going to bill you for it. You can come in and see her at will as needed. She always goes around to the infusion area and radiation oncology just to touch base with the patients. So, people know her name is Kate, and she also runs some of the support groups that we have there. And she's just amazing. She does a lot of the navigation work with them to help them get through it. And a lot of times for patients, it's not even that they need extended therapy or help. It's really just kind of getting through that first hurdle and walking them through that path to be able to get started and feel like they can start to take ownership. Because you really don't want to take that away from a patient. You want them to be able to own this and confront this and deal with this and be a warrior, as opposed to, having to rely on someone else to go through this. And she's just been an amazing resource for us.
I think the diagnosis, at least I remember from Ellen, is like really receiving a gut punch, to say the least.
Yeah.
And as I said in my first show a few weeks ago, Ellen was 36 and had a 6-month-old baby. And I just remember thinking, who gets breast cancer when they're 36 and has just had a baby? And it was overwhelming. And she did eventually take it over. In the beginning, being
It's
the
hard.
oldest sister,
Yep.
being a librarian, I figured research is my specialty. And I jumped in and I found doctors and we went together to interview them. And then once she actually had her mastectomy and had her oncologist, the wonderful Dr. Larry Norton, she kind of pushed us out and said, I'll take over from here.
Because she was ready. But you
Exactly.
enabled her to have that ability to be able to take it over when she was ready to do it. And you allowed her to do it.
Exactly. So I loved in the video also seeing the programs, the health programs, the wellness programs, because I think engaging in a wellness program, not only is it good for you, it's good for the patient emotionally to feel that he or she is in control of his or her body and doing something positive to stay well and to effectuate more wellness, and whether it's eating. Are there programs for nutrition besides wellness? What else?
So I was saying before, it's about mind, body, spirit, and for the patient and for the caregiver. And so the programs that we have support groups depending on what the needs are for the patient, but we also have a really robust wellness program there. So we have a massage therapist that comes on site for the patients. We do acupuncture and we have acupressure. We've done pre-pandemic. We had like fit and strong, boxing, meditation.
I saw the boxing. It's like, let's fight this out. Let's. So
Let me
I'm
tell you
gonna
something.
punch this. You're gone.
And so mind body healing, we had sound bowl, those kinds of things, which was just absolutely amazing. And the staff were able to also join in with the patients or as needed, because it's also helpful for us when you're dealing with these types of things on a daily basis. You get really attached to the patients, and so sometimes it can be really hard for us to kind of get through that. So we try to develop programs that were really global for the patients, for the caregiver. We incorporated staff in that as well. And it was also no cost.
That was my next question. You have all these wonderful programs which cost this cancer center something, because you're hiring people to do these programs. So what is the cost? It is lovely to know that there is no cost, and I'm glad that the staff can participate in the programs. I often wonder, who cares for the caregiver? It's kind of a pun, like who cares? And yet, who cares? Who gives sustenance and nourishment to the caregiver?
Yeah.
And because I know I was a significant caregiver for Ellen, and it takes a lot. And you have your own feelings, sometimes of being tired, sometimes of feeling horrible.
And the guilt.
Sometimes guilt, and sometimes guilt. At times I was annoyed. I thought, like, if you just, because Ellen, the cancer spread to her bones, and it broke her hip. She couldn't walk after she had a hip replacement, never walked. And I kept thinking, how bad could it be? You have a new hip. If you just try. I never said a word to my.
No, but you're talking to me. You're saying that you can share that, and you couldn't share that with her. So you need to have that outlet. Yeah.
And then I had my hip replaced a number of years ago. And I thought, now I know. Yeah, I want to say I had a horrific back operation 10 years ago, and I didn't walk for 6 weeks. It was and the pain was off the chart. It was the best thing to happen to me, because it gave me a perspective on what pain is like for other people when it is so unbearable, and you can't lift your leg, you can't lift your head, you can't get out of bed, and you need someone to advocate for you. And it was such a learning experience for me.
So one of the best things that ever happened to me, which sounds a little bizarre, but about 6 months after we had opened our doors to the Phillips Family Cancer Center, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was, like you said, a gut punch.
I was just going to say, a gut punch for you.
Yeah, right? It was. And I'll never forget, because I got that phone call while driving on Sunrise Highway.
I hope you pulled over immediately. Oh, my God.
But it occurred to me when I immediately started making phone calls, right? So I got the news. I was told that it was cancer. So I started making the phone calls. Because I've been in the field for 20 plus years. I had those contacts. And I pulled in the driveway of my home, and I already had a lot of my appointments made. And it hit me. And I said, how blessed am I that I have this? What do other people do? What are other people doing? Where are they getting their information? Where are they getting their knowledge? And so I started now I'm looking at it, cancer services from the other side, right? From the patient side. And so I started talking to some of the other patients and, where did you get referred? Who did you talk to? And I started kind of getting this feedback. And I said, we need to do more. We need to do better for our patients. We need to provide them with resources so that, they're not going to their dog walkers, cousins, boyfriend, sister.
Get their information, which is it's like telephone, it's like a game of
Yes,
telephone, it's
yes.
completely inaccurate.
Yeah, so I said we need to be able to provide resources to patients so that they know what's available, they know what's out there, they know who to go to, they know who to talk to. And honestly, Julian, I know this sounds absolutely crazy from a business perspective. I don't care if you come to us or not. It's important for me that people who are diagnosed with cancer get the care that they need and that they deserve. So if you come to the Phillips Family Cancer Center and you're not comfortable, I want to help you find a place where you're comfortable to go to.
I love that that's your attitude. And I just want to say, because we have only a few seconds left, that this cancer center, Phillips Family Cancer Center, is an extraordinary resource. It is located here in Southampton
So right on the corner of
Right.
39A and Montauk.
Exactly. And it is a friendly, warm, welcoming place
Yeah.
where everyone there will go the distance for you. They will embrace you. They will give you warmth and safety and encourage you while you're going through this.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me here today.
Thank you.
I feel very blessed. Thank you so
We
much.
could have kept talking.